Hey everybody, I'm here a bit later than I planned. Not going to be long, but this has been an incredible and incredibly eventful and rather sad day. And so I open it up with something that I'm pretty sure you haven't seen before, to which I write to everyone, welcome. There's already 4 of you here, welcome. To welcome to Zennie62 Live. And I want you to see something that takes all of us back from October 24th, 2018. I didn't play the Powerball, by the way, did you? Should have done a Powerball live stream, it would have been fun. Did anyone win? To August 3rd of 2007. And I think the best way for you to understand the importance of August 3rd, 2007 is for me to show you right now the event that I vlogged about on that very day. So come with me here.
I'm walking over to a memorial for Chauncey Bailey, who wrote for the Oakland Tribune for many years and the Oakland Post, and was just shot inexplicably for, I don't know what's going on. But I first met Chauncey when I wrote for the Montclarian between 1993 and 96. I met him in 93. And what I liked about Chauncey was always a positive person, at least to me, regarding anything that I was doing in business or in writing or in journalism. He had an energy that was beyond belief if you knew him, because he was always focused on one singular objective, and that was telling the black story, particularly economically. But he was also focused on really establishing entrepreneurial efforts that were groundbreaking. For example, he was developing a television network out of Eastmont Mall that he tried to get me to go in with, and unfortunately I didn't, for reasons that are not even worth recounting at this point. It doesn't matter. Last time I saw Chauncey was just earlier this year, and he said, you know, I'm watching you, brother. I got my eyes on you. Wow. Anyway, I'm taking a shot of this memorial nearby because I want people to see what others have said about him before this is taken away. Okay.
There's something happening here, but what it is ain't exactly clear. There's a man with a gun over there, telling me I got to beware. I think it's time we stop. Children, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going down. There's battle lines being drawn, and nobody's right if everybody's wrong. Young people speaking their minds are getting so much resistance from behind. Time we stop. Hey, what's that sound? Everybody look what's going on.
I say this to you, don't let anyone or anything silence your voice. Never be afraid to speak. Never be afraid to tell the truth. Never be afraid to ask questions. Chauncey lived without fear. He really tried to make a difference, and you can too.
Singing songs and a carrying signs, mostly say hooray for it's time we stop. Hey, what's that sound?
I present that because Chauncey was shot that morning on his way to work at the Oakland Post. And why? Well, he decided he was going to dig into the doings of the company known as Your Black Muslim Bakery. And there was someone who didn't want him to keep digging. There were a lot of financial improprieties, to say the least. So he was shot. And I say that because today we were presented with the news that pipe bombs were mailed to 2 presidents President Clinton, President Obama, and billionaire George Soros, as well as Debbie Wasserman Schultz, member of Congress, and the other focus of this is the people I just mentioned were those who Donald Trump would always criticize. And yet when Trump made his speech, he didn't mention them. He said high-ranking government officials. And now we have people who are, I'm just going to say this straight out, insensitive enough to say that was a false thing, as if, you know, my thought is anybody who would actually say that immediately put themselves up as a suspect. I mean, that's the dumbest thing anyone can do, is actually make a statement like that, okay? So that's one thing that happened. Hey, JP from the P, how you doing, okay? And thank you to the moderators out there. Something else happened yesterday, and I want to show you, since I'm talking about media. Oh, what that is, and while I'm saying that, I will say this. It's very important to understand where we are today with respect to what I showed you. There are people out there who don't want you to either speak your point of view or to investigate something that you're doing. And that's particularly true if you happen to be black in media. I don't want to go on a rant here, and I'm not going to, but I will say that in my experience, particularly since my blogs have become, well, pretty visible, there are people who've tried to make any other kind of excuse or reason to not take what I'm doing seriously, if you will, to just put it right out there, or to explain it away. Some of those people are black. And they come out of the woodwork, the people that I've known, or and they come out of the woodwork on it. And it's unusual. Maybe I should consider that a sign of success. I don't know. But my point is, you should always support all kinds of views, particularly today. It doesn't matter, and particularly if those views represent a perspective that you don't commonly hear, all right? As Cowboy Wrestler just wrote here, he says, in my 54 years of life, I've never seen a bigger divide in our country than what we're witnessing now. And even though I was a child, I remember the Vietnam years. And Cowboy Wrestler, you're 2 years younger than I. So yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Dell says, he thinks it's an inside job, just like the Vegas shooting after Trump's election. I'm not sure what to make of it, other than someone was definitely up to no good. That's the case. But I think Cowboy Wrestler is absolutely right. But here's the other thing too. I don't see this as much as a divide as others do. I think the media presents a divide, but when you go out and actually talk to people, like we did before the internet and mobile, you find that you have a lot more in common than you're led to believe. It's like we have this voice out there that's saying, you're divided, you're divided, you're divided. But then you get together thinking we're divided, and you realize we're really not. But then there are some people who act like the meme on television, right? In other words, it's like the media's brainwashing them, both social media and television, to be divided, and so they act like it. As opposed to saying, hey, this person has a commonality with me, and so I'll go with it. Joseph Bensman says, today was a scary day, but a predictable one. Con man Trump has emboldened whoever this person or group of people are into acting. There's no way this can be pinned on the left. But something else I have to ask is, why are we allowing our American president to behave this way? Okay? Hey, Oakland Ron says, I agree with that. Yeah, why are we allowing this? I mean, if we universally agree that Donald Trump is dividing us, isn't it time to really seriously say we need to get him out of office? I've never said that before. I have the greatest respect for the president, but look, the one thing that I learned, and going all the way back to a famous book I mentioned on this program before, it's called The Irony of Democracy by Thomas Dye and L. Harmon Ziegler, that the presidency is the biggest bully pulpit of all. I learned that way back in high school, and that was the 70s, okay? Whoever is the president of the United States understands the power of the bully pulpit and therefore uses it carefully. This is the first person to use it recklessly we've ever had in our history, okay? If we don't like being divided, why have that person as our president? I'm not saying Donald Trump is a dislikable person. I happen to like Donald Trump. But what is going on with our country is not the best. And I really seriously do like Donald Trump as a person. Cowboy Black Lion says, people don't want to say how they really feel face to face. They feel free to do so behind the screen. But Joseph Bensman said, I've been saying it for a while, and I know you've disagreed with Zennie or maybe didn't want to believe it, but Trump is a con man, not a president. When he has ever had morals, he's a cancer. And I think the problem is that he's an act. We have what, 13 days before the election, and he's digging right back to the idea of using the Southern strategy of dividing people, you know, and that's a terrible thing to do. And Dotson says, Z, what did he do for you to say that? Dotwitz, I don't know what you're talking about. You have to be more clear in your question there, because that's, what do you mean? What did he do? He who? What did Donald Trump do to say that I like him? Well, I've always liked, I tried out to be on The Apprentice, okay? And so the Trump that I had, the idea I had about Trump is far different from this president. By the way, Deer Park water, it's great. No, they're not a sponsor yet. Jesus Perez says, media divides us, race baits, promotes fake news, has promoted 1,000 hoaxed hate crimes as real. USA has been led to fake wars based on false flags. Well said. Well said. Dawit says Trump is changing the government. Into what? Joseph Bensman says the media keeps saying things like, wouldn't a real president have given the former presidents a courtesy call about the bombs threat today? They need to stop thinking Trump will be a president. Well, that's a great point, Joseph, because, you know, look, a real president would have done that. But it's also important, here's where I slightly disagree with you, it's important for us to be reminded about what a real president would do. Okay, because we have a group of people who are being influenced by someone who doesn't act like that. And I have to say something about this whole idea of political correctness. I've said it before, I'll say it again. You should never want to say something that hurts somebody else's feelings. If that's your idea of being politically correct, all right, then guess what? What we're all trying to explain to you is that you're supposed to be a gentleman or a lady, all right? And you're supposed to be in what's called polite society. You don't say what's on your mind. And if you have to do that, it renders you as being this. It's with a big I. It's called immature. Political correctness is not anything wrong with it. It's called being mature. It's called being an adult. It's called clipping your voice and hearing what the other person has to say. If there's something in you that has this tick where you have to hurt someone else's feelings, my tacit suggestion is that you get psychiatric help, okay? I don't care that there are a lot of people around who say that they don't want to be politically correct. Look, you could have a lot of people around who are sick in the head, all right? You need to get help. You don't go around trying to hurt the feelings of other people. It's wrong. You don't want your feelings. Think about this, hurt. Think about this, all right? Hey, Jay Block, how you doing? Thank you for calling me Poindexter. Joseph Bensman says the media keeps saying things like that. But think about this, okay? Think about how you feel when you read something on social media that's based on some argument you have. You take that in the outside world. Then somebody else who doesn't know that you're on Facebook or Twitter or any place else or YouTube doesn't know why you may be a little bit agitated, right? And you don't tell them. Or maybe you do tell them. But my whole point is, why have that extra layer of interaction that's agitating? Wouldn't you rather go out in the world and feel good about things? Wouldn't you rather be made happy? if that's the case, if your answer is yes, then on the flip side, why would you do something that perpetuates negative feelings to other people through mediums like this? It's wrong. All right? And we have to get back to the idea of right, good, versus wrong, evil. That's been blamed, okay? So my point is that, all right? So Cowboy Rush says it's a new ball game, and I don't know if it's a new ball. When you're talking about the World Series, what's the score? Hey, John Akala, how are you? Welcome, welcome. And so that's what I wanted to pay. So what we're at right now is in a type of media that I argue we've always had. It's just gotten worse. For example, when I started writing my first media job was with the Montclarian and Oakland Hills newspaper, and that was in 1994. Excuse me, yeah, 1993. Specifically, October 13th, 1993, Chip Brown brought me on. Chris Treadway was the editor. They gave me a crucible within which to learn the craft of writing a column. I met the late, great, now late, great Peggy Stinnett, who was a columnist for the Oakland Tribune. Peggy became my dear friend and told me one thing I will, by citing it, prove I have obviously not forgotten. And that is this, that a columnist only writes well when they're angry. You have to be angry about something, excited, you know? But it was a more honest way of interacting then. We didn't have the internet, per se. It was just, DARPA had just started establishing, this started, and the well started coming up and everything else. But we didn't have that, all right? And what I learned that during that interaction was one thing that's true, that is especially true now. I believe that Oakland needed a strong mayor form of government. A number of other people did. At the time, we had council manager form of government. The mayor was L.U. Harris, our second black mayor. There are people who didn't want L.U. to have that kind of power. Some of those people were white who ran companies like Dreyer's Ice Cream. I wrote in favor of strong mayor. I was with the Montclarian for 3 years until October 16th of 1996. Why? Because T. Gary Rogers did not like the fact that I wrote in favor of strong mayor. He ran Dreyer's Ice Cream and asked specifically to have me removed. He asked Chip Brown, and that they were both, you know, Cal friends. We all went to Cal. Chip and I used to talk about Cal all the time, and asked to have my column removed. He was a major money player for the Montclarian. So guess what? My column was stopped. That was 96. Money has always impacted media. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Always. Always. So what we have happening in media today is the cacophony of many different monetary media voices aiming and at war with each other. It's not making us any better, but I think a path toward getting to a better society is to be honest about the kind of media we have today. Okay? And how Donald Trump is using that media to divide us, and how the media itself is making money from that, perpetuating the message and not doing anything to make sure that we're soothed as a country, that we're brought together. In all of this, there is a medium, there's a market for a kind of media, you know, an enjoyment media. And you would say, okay, Zennie, what is that? I kind of just said it, right? I'm laying the groundwork. A little bit of tech here, a little bit of truth there, lots of video, lots of fun events. You know, it's in there. But I contend that if we properly use our market to develop this kind of enjoyment media, enjoyment news media, all right, we can begin to reassemble our country in a way that society is more exciting than ever. Because we need to do that to save our democracy, to prolong lives, to feel good about ourselves, and to continue this American experiment. All right? So Joseph Bensman says, I'll get to your comments here. Says, my mom likes to say that Trump throws bombs, and that is so true about him. This week has been saying that there are Muslims in the caravan heading to the Mexican border, completely racist. And Dawitz talks about the deep state, which I happen to think is a ridiculous idea. I don't look at the idea of deep state because I think it's stupid. I really do. Now, as far as truths and falsehoods in media, I want to show you something else that, goes back to a little kind of dealy I've been on, as it were. And when I say dealy, I mean a certain bit of information that has to do with Las Vegas Stadium and the hotel tax revenue. And it's something I haven't specifically blogged about, but I did blog about it, or did make a micro blog about it on Twitter. And it's this, okay? Cowboy Rush says he wants to commend all the folks at CNN for their professionalism during this chaos day. I second that. This is it, though. This is rolling average Las Vegas Stadium hotel tax revenue. It starts from the period of March of 2017 all the way to September 2018. Look what it's doing. This rolling average rolls down. And let's look closer. Okay? This is 4 million. For much of this period has been above 4 million until right there, and then here, where it was, this was October of last year, 1 October, kicked up for a bit, was fine. Then right here, look, it started to go down. This is right here, this is September, August, and July. And if you take a look at these micro reductions, okay, it means that overall, this average is falling below 4 million. Now, why is that important? Because the average debt coverage amount per month for the bond issue of $650 million is 4.198 million. So now that this is less than that, and the bond issue kicks in next year, there's a problem. Not only is there a problem for the bond issue, but also this is money that's going to the Raiders. When the deal was first designed, it was expected that they would take in over $5 million per month. Obviously, that's not happened. It only happened once. And as you can see from this average, okay, there has not been anything close to 5 million, even from an average perspective. Okay? Take a look at that. And that's the rolling average. All right? That's the rolling average. Hey, Muhammad, these aren't casino numbers. They're fueled by visitation numbers. Casino numbers are actually pretty good, okay, in terms of revenue. This is not that. This is stadium hotel tax revenue. Okay? All right? So my point, but this isn't communicated to you by the media. When I put it out there, all right, thank you, Muhammad, appreciate that. So when I put it out there, in a perfect media world, you think someone would pick it up and say, hey, Mr. Abraham said X. No, all right, because they don't want that media picture told. And so that's what I'm talking about regarding the warring media. And into this fray steps a person like me, all right? That's why I always say do the math. But my point is that in all of this, there's media that has money behind it in every direction you look. When I do this on YouTube, I'm a YouTube partner. Make money from the, the visitation, the ads, that sort of thing. I do content development, which is another way of saying content creation, right? I'm paid to write things and make videos, right? And that sort of thing, okay? So, and I'm not the only one. There used to be thousands, now millions of people. Millions doing this. Millions. We used to have on YouTube, we had, what? A handful of partners. Maybe a few thousand nationwide at that. Now it's several million around the world. And the revenue per partner has gone down because there's so many. Even though their partner's making over $100,000 a year. okay? And then you have Facebook has its own version of media partners, whatever they do, and Instagram. Some people figured out how to combine them all, you know? There's a lot of media out there. And so it's so much media, you can basically carve the world as you see fit. But at some point, we have to all come up with a system that is designed specifically to keep our society together. Now, let me go back and get to your comments. Let's see here. Cabarrus says, in Raiders news, there's a report out today Gruden has lost the locker room. That's old news. Over the handling of the Cooper trade, looks like Gruden's ego has caught up with him. Cowboy wrestler John Gruden lost the locker room with Khalil Mack. When the minute he lost the locker room with Marquette King. All right? So, John, and I was thinking about this the other day. I should have asked John at a press conference at the Combine. I should have said, hey, John, can you handle today's black athlete? Because today's black athlete is not afraid of expressing how well-educated they are. What I mean by that is they're idealistic, they're analytical, they question, they may not trust something that you say, they may not say it necessarily to your face, but they're reflected in other ways. How can you make sure you win a locker room with people who are very young, well-paid, exceptionally intelligent, and African-American, and may not think that you see the world as they do? How do you win them over? That's the question I should have asked him, okay? I thought maybe his covering the Monday Night Football, being around players, I didn't think he would have to, make that leap, right? But I think I was wrong. I really do. Muhammad says, sorry, my visitation got that. Rick Gray says, hey, Rick, how you go? So now that with the tax dropping on the Vegas tax, what's the gap that the Raiders need to cover? Does the shortfall mean they need to get rid of more players? Good question, Rick. What it means is that the shortfall means this, that because the Raiders are responsible for construction, Nevada is not going to replace that money because the tax isn't, bringing in everything that it should, the tax rate. I was told that the tax rate of 88/100ths and 1%, quote, is what it is. I was told that by Jeremy Aguilo at the Las Vegas Stadium Authority meeting that I visited earlier this year in March. He said it is, excuse me, not even March, not March, that was during CES. That was specifically, let's see, the 10th of January. January 10th, 2018 at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Clark County. That's when I went over there and I interviewed them. That's when our Grillo told me, it's on video here at Zennie62 on YouTube, that the tax rate is what it is. He doesn't see that, Grillo didn't see at the time there would be a stomach to go back to the legislature. That's why the Las Vegas election is so important. If Steve Sisolak becomes governor, which could happen, he would be in the best position ever of anybody to really fix the deal. Will he is another question, but he's in that position. On the other hand, Rick, here is where the Raiders sit. And I want everybody to pay attention to what I'm about to tell you. Do I have your attention? And I'll go back and read your comments after what I'm about to tell you. But this is extremely important. The simple fact that that revenue is not coming in as it was forecast gives the Raiders another chit, a potential lawsuit chit, a PLC, a potential lawsuit chit. That's a new term I came up with. In other words, the Raiders can say, hey, you promised us that we would have this revenue from this tax, to pay for the stadium, and you would say, that's the pay-go, right? So we get that money. guess what, folks? That money the Raiders are supposed to get but not getting, unless I read the contract, unless I read the contract wrong for the bond issue, and I don't think I did because it's not the bond issue, all right? It's a pay-go. I'll explain what I mean in a second. There's nothing the Raiders can do about getting that money from the general fund. That's a shortfall, folks. I'm sure they'll try, but they don't have it. And the Raiders could very well argue, hey, look, we got $647 million. You guys, Clark County, you got $647 million from the bond sale, right? That's, what, $3 million less than the $650 million you were supposed to get. On top of that, you only transferred to us $48 million when we thought it was going to be $60 million. Okay? So you turn around, and I'm looking at that, and I'm thinking, you said $750 million you were going to put in, but we're only getting $700 million. We're $50 million, $55 million short. And that's money that you owe us. How are they going to get that to the Raiders? Are they going to back end pay them? Meanwhile, the Raiders right now have to make up that $55 million difference. And so the Raiders looking around and saying, hey, we can't afford bonuses for our players. We can't afford to run our team the way we wanted to. And on top of that, we don't have the sponsorships yet that we thought we were going to get. That's a bad situation to be in, okay? That's why I ran around saying Raiders are broke. Well, right now they are. You know, there's this idea that, well, they're just kind of waiting until they get to the cash cow, that's the stadium. Which begs the question, who is it, Sheldon Adelson? Who's giving them money? Is it the NFL? Did the NFL extend the Raiders' debt limit? And if so, by how much? I hope so. Because they need that rider. But if you think about that, the NFL couldn't have extended the Raiders' debt limit by that much because look what they're doing. They're sacking their players left and right. Phew. Boy, what a bonanza, as Joe Starkey would say, in a bad way. All right? So go back and read your comments. Anyway, I hope that got it for you, Rick Gray. I'll scroll down. Black Lion says, we all know what direction this country is headed in. Most of us just don't want to talk about it. Well, I'm talking about it. I'm saying that we can stave off that direction. I don't believe we should just sit back and allow anything to happen. I believe that collectively, just by talking to each other and saying hello on the street, we can improve this country. You heard me say that. Get out your cell phone, get up, look at somebody and say, hey, how you doing? And keep going. That little bit of interaction goes a long way. Joseph Benson said, I've been thinking back in the 19th century, white people embraced manifest destiny, an ultimate form of white privilege. Today, whites can't deny the existence of white privilege fast enough. Curious. I think, you know, to be fair, though, Joseph, is encapsulated in your comment is this idea that the same white people that were around in the 19th century are still alive today. That made them pretty old, don't you think? There's a different generation, and I think, and I really encourage people to remember that you have a lot of people here who really well represent our maturation as a country, our maturation regarding race, our maturation regarding ideology, and are really good people. So I think your comment really does great people, great white folks, a disservice, okay? There are a lot of people who are really fantastic, and while it's important to be race conscious, it's also important to be race conscious in a positive way, to have an accurate gauge of how a country's improved. I disagree with your comment because, again, it implies that, you know, white folks in the 19th century are still alive, and they haven't changed, and that simply is just not true. Cowboy Wrestler says, Black Lion Supreme pre-2017, I would love talk about it. Now, not so much because of the obvious cough, cough, Trump, cough, cough. Black Lion says, facts CW. Tokyo says, Gruden got lucky with that Tampa team. Ding! Meaning I agree. Cowboy Wrestler says, John Gruden couldn't handle a Richard Sherman type player. Black Lion says, laugh out loud, real old news. I told you that once Mac was traded. Mohammed says, I was reading an article that said McKenzie was the one who pulled the trigger on Key and Hurst. This was a great article on the state of Raiders, a lot of issues with personnel and scheme. Hey, Muhammad, my email is Zennie@Zennie62.com. Could you please send me that? That would be great. Cowboy Wrestler says, Black Lion, of course, it's old news, but I guess the sports media is slow to pick it up for some reason. Muhammad says, I believe the country has a contingency fund. Excuse me. Muhammad says, I believe the county has a contingency fund if created if the hotel revenue doesn't reach its goal. Muhammad, it's called the general fund. It's a general obligation bond, okay? It's not a revenue bond, all right? It's not a revenue bond. You see, your comment thinks of the bond issue as if it was strictly, designed by that revenue. No. It's a general obligation bond. A general obligation bond, by definition, dips into the general fund. So it's the hotel stadium tax revenue is sort of a cover for the truth. Yeah, it's an extra source of revenue to protect the general fund. But at the end of the day, the deal can readily dip into the general fund like that. So otherwise, it would be called a revenue bond. All right? So, and Muhammad, don't ever think, what you just wrote, he says, I'd like to think of it as a contingency fund. Oh, Jesus Christ. I can't believe, the Lord help me. Contingency fund. No. A contingency fund has to be funded by something. All right? The county doesn't have extra dollars laying around for the Raiders deal. The way the deal was presented, the money from the hotel stadium tax, the 81/100% of room tax, of the tax on the room, excuse me, was supposed to cover that debt. It doesn't. It doesn't, okay? It doesn't. There's no contingency fund. It's drawing from money that would normally go to education, or it will draw from money that normally will go for education. But right now, the Raiders are in a shortfall, construction-wise. And the best way, you say, how should the Raiders deal with it? They can either, look, the Bank of America line of credit is not going to give them enough extra to dip into. That's already accounted for, all right? So the best way that they would have to do it is they would have to slow down construction. I'm serious. This is the way they would have to do it. Slow down construction a few months and just collect some extra money until they start paying down the bond issue. As to whether or not they will do that is another story. They could. But right now there's a problem because that money is not coming in like they thought it was going to. And you can't just have less money coming in and think, oh, it's okay. Oh, wait, we're not. There's no problem. It's okay. There is a problem. Okay? There is a problem. All right. Black Lion says, but again, with this Vegas mess, you can't just put this on Gruden. Cowboy Wrestler says, Black Lion Supreme. We all know whose fault it is. Old Chili Bowl. Christian Akala says that if John does not nail the draft picks this year coming up, will be a while before we get back in this. Chad says, sell the team. Muhammad says Gruden will trade Carr and Josh McCown will be Organa in the 2019. Hey, you kind of forgot about good old guy who's married to Miss Alabama, didn't you? AJ McCarron, okay? Right? Brent Musburger didn't forget. He's got googly eyes still. Hey, she's really gorgeous. I'm not saying he's wrong. This is still kind of funny. Black Lion says, Cowboy Wrestler, one day you're going to hear what happened to our team. Might a year from now, or it might be 5 years from now, but you will hear the truth, I promise you. Let's see here. Now, okay. Then Joseph Benson says, why not Black Lion? He's at least part of the blame. Chat says Fitzgerald would be nice. Muhammad says, I do think there'll be another team in the Bay Area due to the fact that Levi was meant for two teams. I feel the National Football League will force Davis to stay and play in Levi before the move. Joseph Benson says, I was not labeling all white people that way, Zennie. Of course not. All are ignorant or racist, but a lot just don't even realize that there's such a thing as white privilege today. Even good people. And Joseph, yeah, I agree with you, because I mean, let's put a face on this that is real. There are a number of examples, but the one I like to look at is a couple of women I met at a party. One of them was headed to grad school to be a PhD, I think, in chemistry, and she talked openly about how her father, she was also white, encouraged her to go in that direction and never put up any ideas or boundaries. Yeah, okay, that might sound normal and everything else. By contrast, there are a number of occasions where I can cite, like, for example, I mean, random occurrences in life where I am at the TSA booth in Atlanta airport, and this woman, black, is telling her son that that the son will not amount to anything. There's all these ideas of, someone talking white, as I got, for example, when I was coming up, the constant theme that someone black should not be intellectually expressive, okay? Or if they are intellectually expressive or they're smart, there's something, wrong with them. That has been a constant theme in black society in America that only within the last 10 years has begun to be chipped away at, thanks to the emergence of, well, President Obama. That's the big contribution that having a black president made on my life, is picking up a magazine. I think one of the most seminal moments of my life, even prior to Barack Obama, was picking up a Vogue magazine and seeing someone who looked like me in it. And this was 1986, and I froze because I'm used to seeing white folks in magazines like Vogue or Cosmopolitan or fashion and beauty magazines, and here I see a black man who looks like me. Well, kid, looks like me, okay? And I dropped the magazine. Whoa. All right? There are a lot of people who are white who don't have that experience, because you're used to seeing someone who might look like you, but for a different hairstyle or something like that. But for us, for people like me, that's jarring. What I like about what's happening today is that the next 2 generations from now of folks like black folks will be used to seeing blacks on television, in media, and everything else. And the idea of that their image is less than will not be the case. It'll be a different world, a better world than what I was presented with, but fortunately have lived long enough to see the end of. But just being honest, that's a powerful difference. When we talk about, white privilege, it's really white, I call it white confidence. It's the confidence to be yourself, to express your ideas, to believe that you have that one idea that no one else has that can change the world, and you go forth and you convince others to invest in that idea because you believe it's the one. That the belief is powerful. When you have people around you, as many of us do who are black, telling you you can't because you're black, in many different ways. Oh, I'll give you another example of what I'm talking about. When Jack Del Rio was hired as the coach of the Raiders, there were a group of us, and I've told the story before, but I think it's worth recounting. There were a group of us, blacks in media, who were standing around and talking about what we heard and everything else. And one guy I'd never met before said, "Oh, this is bad." And I said, "What?" He goes, "This." And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Us." And I said, "What?" He goes, "You know." And I said, wait. You mean you're saying to me it's a bad thing that... And I stopped myself and said, "Look, don't ever let me hear you say that again. There's nothing wrong with all of us as black folks standing around talking. That's how companies are born. That's how you know, great things are born when people get together and collaborate and have ideas. Why should we fear to do that? You understand what I'm saying? That a simple thing like just talking, and I wasn't even thinking like he was. And he's half my age. That's what bothered me. Half my age. Bad thing, okay? So, all right, that happened in 2015. So the battle to excel is in the mind. It's in the mind. And I'll go a step further. Most of my friends coming up, you know, in school were white because I was made fun of by those who were black. And so when I came to California, I could be myself. All right? That's why if someone says, Zennie, you're Mr. White Guy, I say, well, thank you. Just make sure you put the Mr. in there. The point is that the friends that I established here were all intellectually confident. And that comes from when I was 14. You know, Bill and Lars, we started the Star Trek Club. And I got that, all right? I got that. So you know, I rejected the idea that because I'm black, I should be less than. And fortunately, my friends didn't allow that. I was the first president of the bike club at Skyline High School. And I remember this was 1978. And as president, you know, Bill and Lars and I, we had a particular direction we wanted to go. Bill and Lars are white. Brockman, who was our sponsor, insisted we go the, quote, traditional route. I said, no, as president, I say we go this route. He said, well, you're the first black president. And Bill, again, who's white, said, and I quote this, he says, in his deep voice that he still has to this day, what does that have? He had a deep, it's 16, 17. He goes, what does that have to do with anything? Those are my friends. Lars died this year in April in his sleep. 40-year friendship. Those are the people I grew up with. So, you learn from who you surround yourself with, and I surrounded myself with people who allowed me to flourish intellectually. And yeah, a lot of them are white. I suppose that was my way of combating white privilege. All right, onward. Let's see here. We've got Joseph Binsman says, I agree with your point, Zennie. We definitely have to be nicer to each other. I had jury duty yesterday. Oh, my goodness. And people were being completely civil with each other. Wish it was like that every day. And it is. It is like that every day. You just have to get out. And when you get out, get off your cell phone. Z Kumar says the Raiders know what they're doing. No. Z, the Raiders don't know what they're doing. Welcome to the show. Joseph Binsman says, Mr. Perez, I'm not stupid. You have made some pretty ignorant statements tonight. I don't know who he's talking about. And I will ban you if... No, Joseph, don't do that. Don't ban anybody for making a stupid statement. If they make a disrespect, if they insult people, fine. But I haven't seen this Perez guy, so just chill out, okay? Joseph Perez, whatever he said. I mean, is it Joseph or Jesus Perez? Leave Jesus alone. If Jesus wants to go off and say something, let him have some fun. Jeez, forget it. Cool your jets, my man. Cowboy Wrestlers, Black Lion Supreme. I cried when the Vegas move was approved. Cowboy Wrestlers writing, he says, because we're not the Raiders leaving Oakland again, but they're leaving California. Binsman says there are no Muslims in the caravan of immigrants down. Well, Joseph, leave the guy alone, okay? Pay no attention to him, all right? Cowboy Wrestler says, I think the Raiders 10 years ago should have went to the Yorks and said, let's partner on a stadium. That didn't happen because of the Davis ego. No, Cowboy Wrestler, it didn't happen because, as Amy Trask said in the Chronicle, oh, geez, it reminds me of an email I've got to send. I'll send it tonight. As Amy Trask said, that at the time they were very happy with the Coliseum. And they had just moved back. It would have been like, you know, you only been here 10 years, you want to leave? Come on. So it wasn't a matter of ego. And there was really nothing wrong with the Coliseum. that a few upgrades the Raiders could have had the NFL pay for at the time wouldn't have taken care of. Just saying. Black Lion says, but I will say this after the move, I may still be a Raider fan. I didn't feel that way a week ago. All right. So, all right. So now we've got, I think I got through all the comments. Shocking. Oh, okay. And Benzo says, you can always be a fan of your team, Black Lion. I just hope ownership one day will truly represent you. You know, here's the thing, and I've said it before, I'm a fan of what they're trying to do, but I'm not a fan of the way that they did it, and I still believe that there needs to be a court session or so to sort out how this was handled. Does that mean I'm in favor of a lawsuit? I think I just said I am in favor of a lawsuit, which would lead to the inevitable question, Zennie, where are we with the lawsuit? We are not there. And I will say this, as I said the previous night that I was on here, which is not last night, but the night before, and that is, this is me talking as speculatively. I believe two things. First of all, we're not in any hurry to file a lawsuit. There's no reason to be. Second, the Raiders are on a clock to find a place to play next year. So the Raiders claim to be waiting out, or they're playing chicken. The Raiders are basically saying, we're not going to sign this lease if you're going to sue us. But you see, the city and the county and the JPA know that at some point the Raiders have to make a decision. So guess what? They can wait them out. So I'm not thinking that, oh, tomorrow, you know, they're going to file a lawsuit. In fact, as I think about this even further, I can't see them filing it prior to the election. You want to see where the election sorts out, if the mayor, you know, gets reelected, that sort of thing. Then we'll have a better idea what to do. And I believe that may be the other occurrence here. Even though the city council's given the city attorney the right to sue, there's still this, you know, they're not acting totally independently of the politicians, okay? So, in Joseph Bismuth says, where does Heller stand in Nevada? Is he backing Mark Davis? I haven't seen him turn away. He's been kind of, you know, walking the line with that one. Cowboy Wrestling, like, you know, Dean Heller is a guy I want to like. I haven't met him yet in person. Actually, you know what? I had a chance to meet him, but didn't. Just seems like a nice guy to hang out with and have steak with. At any rate, Cowboy Wrestler says, Z, do you believe that if the late Mr. Davis were still alive today, the Raiders would have filed for relocation? No. Muhammad Ahmed says, from my understanding, there's a $200 million bond issue in Oakland. They still pay for the Raiders' previous move for Coliseum upgrades. Is that correct? Yes. About, I think, $60 million due on it, somewhere in there. John Akala says, what are the chances that the Vegas Stadium doesn't finish getting built, or will it be built but delayed even further? Oh, no. It's going to be built. You can bet your bippies. Now, as to when it's finished, we'll have to see. But, you know, but oh, no. It's going to be built, and when it's finished, it's going to be magnificent. Certainly will be. And it will give Vegas a new event space it never had before, and make events like CES even better. It'll be a net positive for the South Valley, without question. However, with respect to a Super Bowl, it's incomplete. The stadium needs to be surrounded by 10,000 new hotel rooms to make a Super Bowl doable. John Collins says, what are the chances that the Vegas Stadium doesn't got that one? Rick Gray says, hey, Rick, how you doing? Rick Gray says, how is this Vegas Stadium getting built, Zennie? You proved the stadium build is very bad. Yes. But it's going up? Well, yeah, it's still going up. He says, why does an investigating reporter question these issues? I have. Oh, but you mean in Vegas? I get you. I apologize. Because they don't want to get pissed off. They don't want to piss off anybody and have their kneecaps threatened. I'm not kidding you. There's a fear there among the media. They don't want to piss off anything, or they don't want to upset it. Vegas is a sales town, all the way down to its media, And who owns the media? A couple of billionaires. Well, one billionaire, one millionaire, okay? They have businesses that they want to put ads into their papers and everything else. Mr. Adelson is one of them. They want to steer public opinion. So they don't want anyone like the old set of journalists that used to represent the Las Vegas Review-Journal asking the kind of questions you want asked. Oh, no. Those folks got all but ran out of town. Do some research on those folks. Research the Las Vegas Review-Journal before Adelson bought it. Okay? You'll find out who got fired. In fact, type Las Vegas Review-Journal reporter fired. Journalist fired. You'll see the stories. That will give you the big picture. All right? Okay? In Black Lion says, I would rather the city of Oakland were a fan of the people, Joseph Benzman. And Cowboy Joseph Armandaris, welcome. How you doing? Cowboy Russia says, Black Lion Supreme haven't been in Oakland since 1989. How bad have the officials there gotten? It's not that the officials are bad. What's happened is that, it's worth talking about. What's happened is that it's a combination of ranked choice voting, and a strong mayor system. You see, basically what we tried to achieve from, again, a big picture perspective is a kind of Oakland government that was responsible to people regardless of color or class, all right? And that has been at least a generation and a half in the making. So where we are now is we have a system that's, because of the way we wanted to design, the unfortunate side effect is that it's fragile. What do I mean? I mean that where we used to have mayors that lasted for 2 terms or 3 terms in the old council-manager form of government, now we have mayors that more often than not last 1 term. All right? Because you have a class of people, and I don't mean by race or, income, I just mean a class, a group of people, a minority group of people that's dissatisfied. If they vote as a bloc, they can hamper the re-election of the incumbent. That happened with Jean Quan. It could very well happen with Oakland Mayor Libby Schaaf. I am of the belief that Mayor Schaaf should be retained so that we can have stability. Our city government has been hallmarked by instability because of the same system. And so it makes it difficult to get things done because you don't know, who's going to be around. You've got, people who've lasted long. Desley Brooks has been in since 2002. I hope she gets reelected. She's been criticized for matters having nothing to do with delivering for her constituents. She's delivered wonderfully for her constituents in District 6, which includes a home at 3039 Monticello that I once stayed at, which was also the home of Bruce Lee. Okay, now I'm going to stop. It's 1:53. I'm going to stop in a few minutes, folks. Specifically 7 minutes. And I'll be back tomorrow. Thursday. Black Lion says, oh, CW, my opinion is just very bad. And of course, it's not just about the Raiders. Muhammad says, I agree, Adelson is a guy not to be messed with. More than Trump, he wanted the embassy moved to Jerusalem, and he made it happen financially. So I don't think Stadium will have issues. Cowboy, I agree with you. Cowboy Wrestler, I like Adelson. Adelson's a guy that, another guy I'd love to meet if I ever have the opportunity, who really played a key role in the construction of the modern Las Vegas, which I've been a fan of since, years, decades, okay? Outside of Oakland, one of my favorite cities, next to New York and Chicago. I love Vegas. Cowboy says, when I was young, Oakland was greatly admired for its progressive stance on issues. Not only that, we had a well-decorated city manager's office. And Rick Gray says, so regarding the Vegas Stadium, Las Vegas doesn't have enough hotel rooms. No. What do you mean? Isn't Vegas home to more hotel rooms than any other city in America? No, Rick Gray. No, I didn't say that. No. What I said was, regarding the Super Bowl, it doesn't have enough available hotel rooms because they're occupied. It would present the first situation where you would have so much price, look, gouging that no one could stay in Vegas. Why? Because you have events that are already booked during the Super Bowl period. You have hoteliers who say, hey, you know, we don't even know if we can handle the Super Bowl. So the best solution is an NFL Super Bowl city of 10,000 hotel rooms. Hey, Brett P, how you doing? Oh, Cowboy Wrestler says, oh, Billy Jones says Oakland must be in Vegas. They already took Dallas to the cleaners. Cowboy Wrestler says Black Line Supreme. The reason why I left California in 06 was because it got so expensive and unlivable for me and my wife. Brett P of St. Louis says, good evening, just got here. Did you discuss the rumor that the NFL wants St. Louis to take the Chargers? That's the local sports talk rumor. No, I didn't discuss that, and thank you for bringing that to my attention. St. Louis to take the Chargers. That would be interesting. And I'll research that so I can talk, you know, intelligently about it, or have somebody on from St. Louis to find out what they think, or what you think, perhaps. Thank you for the tip there. Cowboy Rusher says, Sacramento was the last city I lived in. Curtis Keene says, go Diamondbacks. Rick Gray says, okay, gotcha. Ding. Joseph Benjamin says, as a Democrat, I disagree with you about Mr. Adelson, Muhammad, haha, but I hear what you're saying. Muhammad says, Ahmad, Z, what's your email? I'll find an article and send. Sorry, I forgot. I will write it right now. It is Zennie at Zennie, as my late godmother, Auntie Jeannie, used to say, Zennie. Zennie62.com. That's my email. John Akala says, so you think Raiders will probably sign lease extension in December, which is the deadline? I think they would be smart to do so. I really do. Rob Iman says, Chargers will have to rebrand in St. Louis. Muhammad says, got it. Cool. Yeah, the Raiders would be smart to do so. You know, I mean, all this is drama about, well, we're not signing because you're going to sue us and everything else. Look, they screwed up. All right? The perfect world is for the mayor and the Raiders and the NFL to get together and talk. Ah, a perfect world. Well, one can dream. One can dream. One can have a fantasy. You know, we are the world. We are the children, right? Anyway, okay. All right. Folks, it is 1:57, and I'm going to sign off. Once again, this has been a fantastic and fun conversation. Working on a special deal. So, special guest. See you, everybody. Good night. Oh, good night. Black Lance says Lionel Wilson's great friend of his father. Brett P. I will check out that tip. Thank you. Good night, everybody. So you're saying the rumor is that the Chargers would go to St. Louis, right? Let me check that out, all right? See you guys later. Good night, good night, good night, good night. Good... Joseph, hold your powder for tomorrow. It's a great question. Good night, good night, good night. Good night. See ya. Malcontent, tomorrow we'll be back, man. We'll see ya.